now, live from RSN Studios, it's Stay Awake with John T. Hill. Time now for a special comment, and yes, I'm ripping this off completely from Keith Olbermann. But I think when I'm done saying what I got to say, he'll be more than happy to allow me to take his little trademarked whatever patent thing, whatever. Excuse me. We're not the greatest country in the world anymore. There is a clip from the very beginning of a TV show called The Newsroom that airs on HBO. The very beginning of it, that the lead actor, played by Jeff Daniels, basically tells it like it is. We're not number one anymore. I don't have to go into the statistics. I don't have to go into the where and what's. We're not number one anymore. And it's not because these other nations have done such fantastic things to get ahead of us. It's that we have let ourselves down. It's our own damn fault. And the reason it's our own damn fault is we have allowed ourselves to become greedy, selfish, self-absorbed, self-obsessed, and in that stupidity, we have forgotten that this nation has united at the beginning of it. That we're all in this together. Yes, there's a lot of individuality that comes with being an American. We're not all lockstep, nor should we ever be. But yet, there are people in this great nation of ours who want us to be in lockstep, who want us to not think for ourselves, who want us to blindly follow the words of some leader, some radio show host, some preacher, some politician who's on the take, some corporate demigod who is praised because he is a cutthroat bastard who will do anything and everything to be successful. We like to proclaim ourselves to be the moral compass of the world, but how can we be that way when success is valued at how well you get away with cheating, how well you get away with bending the rules, how well you get away with screwing some other guy over? That's the value of success today in America. We're so competitive that we don't realize we're being undermined by the very top of the food chain. Take, for example, free trade. It seemed like such a good idea at the time, about almost 25 years ago. Hey, we free trade with Canada, we free trade with Mexico, it'll help them out, and we'll still be strong. The problem was, cheap labor was much cheaper in Mexico, and a lot of plants moved to Mexico because, hey, it's cheaper down there. You don't have to worry about unions. And, it's a lot better. It doesn't help us any, but it helps corporate America because they send their plants down and they're still having their headquarters here. Of course, officially, their headquarters are in the Cayman Islands so they can avoid tax breaks, which is the problem. My apologies for the coughing. This is not a professional show, I know, for me coughing, but, Anyhow, the fact is that we celebrate these people for screwing the system. We wonder why we're in such debt. Well, guess what? We have given corporations so many tax breaks on this idea that if we give one more tax break, that they'll send down a ton of jobs and everybody will be happy. It hasn't happened that way. They're using these tax breaks to basically create these jobs overseas and not here, because they want to take us and turn us into a third world country because they don't want to have their power unopposed. Now, I'm sure some of you will remember a TV show called Dukes of Hazzard. where Boss Hogg ran the county. We kept everybody else down. He had the control of the sheriff and all that. That's what they want to turn America into. They want you to celebrate the good old boys of Bo and Luke Duke. But in reality, they yearn to be Boss Hogg. They yearn to have control over the Roscoe P. Coltrane sheriffs of Hazard County. They want that. They want to have control. They want to be in control. And that's the problem. Our founding fathers warned us against this kind of control. Or at least a few of them did. Some were not as warning of it as others. The fact is, Thomas Jefferson warned us against the so-called moneyed interest. And yet, guess who controls America these days? Moneyed interest. Corporations are people now. So they just have as much rights as you do. Or so they would like you to believe. When in reality, corporations have far more rights than you do. They can throw in as much money as they can, and either directly or indirectly, to any politician they so choose. But you're limited. Which, of course, you're limited not just because of the law, but because of your own pocketbook. They want to make sure that you do not have a voice. And they're doing a damn good job of it. Take a look at the so-called voter ID law. The reality is this is little more than just a test case to make sure that people who may not be able to afford an ID, can't vote. And how many times have we had problems with voter fraud in this country? You can probably count them on your hand. Legitimate voter fraud. There's always going to be people complaining about this county and this city and that district and blah, 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 blah. But justifiable convictions of voter fraud. Very few. Most of the allegations tend to be on the Republican side. So you hear these Republicans complain about voter fraud from the left, but whenever charges come up against it, it's the Republicans themselves who are being convicted of it and charged with it. So the problem is they want to basically make it harder for you to vote. This new voting act they've approved in North Carolina takes away early voting. It takes away Sunday voting. It takes away a lot of... Basically, they want to make it to where it's harder for you to vote, that you have to wait in line for hours on end to vote, when it could be a lot more convenient for you to vote in early voting registration. And the reason is they want to discourage you from voting. They want their people to vote, and they don't want you to vote. They want to make it harder for you to vote. They want to discourage you from participating in the process, because if you participate in the process, you're going to find out that you're being screwed over, and it's going to piss you off. And they're going to tell you that it's all about high taxes, when in reality, those high taxes wouldn't be so high if corporations paid their fair share. And the corporations keep yelling, "Oh, we're being harassed and by the government with all these needless regulations and taxes and all this." When in fact, a lot of them don't pay taxes at all. Or what they do pay, they get right back in a nice, hefty refund. And not only that, some of them are actually getting subsidized, even though they're making a ton of profit. And whatever happened to true journalism in this country? Where are the Edward R. Murrows, the Walter Cronkites, the ones that told us that things were not right? Well, there are probably some out there. It's just we don't listen to them. We've been told that the mainstream media is too quote-unquote liberal, too quote-unquote out of the mainstream, because they are not patriotic. When in fact, the ones that were doing their job have been shouted down by the ones who are supplicants of the corporate elite. And I'm looking at you, Fox News. Or I should say Fox corporate propaganda agenda pushers. The fact is that Fox News wants you to be mad at the wrong people. They want you to be mad at the so-called welfare queens, at the so-called unemployed that just sit on their ass and don't look for a job. They want you to be mad at the people who are supposedly taking advantage of the system, when in reality it's the ones paying their salaries that are taking advantage of the system far worse than any illegal immigrant, than any welfare queen, than any slob who's unemployed and who hadn't looked for a job in years. They're far less of a leech on the system than some corporation who wants to have absolutely no restraints whatsoever. No taxes, no regulations, no nothing. They want complete and utter freedom to do whatever they want. And when that happens, folks, you get screwed. This nation gets screwed. The environment gets screwed. And they want not only that, they want to basically be able to make money off everything. Here's the funny thing. Why are we the only industrialized nation in the world without nationalized health care? You keep hearing saying, oh, it's so bad in Canada and England, but yet they don't want to give it up. Canadians I've talked to swear by their national health care system. The same with the English. They celebrated it at the Olympics, the English did. They celebrated national health care. And yet we demonize it. Because we've been taught for 30 some odd years that our government is pure evil. Yet, we the people are the government. We elect these people. So what you're basically saying is you are afraid of you. And a lot of this fear comes from the fact that we feel powerless. And when you feel powerless, you lash out. And you're being told to lash out by the very people who are actually controlling things these days. Corporate America, who are funding a lot of these people that I like to call the nouveau Jim Bakers. I hate televangelism with a passion. I think that Jerry Falwell is burning in hell. I think that Oral Roberts is burning in hell. I think that Jim Baker, Jimmy Swaggart, Robert Tipton, those people that run TBN, all will burn in hell because they have taken the word of Christ and perverted it. They want to tell you how to live your life, but they also want you to forget that there are people out there who are doing Satan's work. And what I mean by that is basically they're robbing the poor, neglecting the sick and the old and the blind and the infirmed. They want to take as much as they can, and they're feeding these people, these so-called Christian people, to make sure you don't really see the truth. It's easier to be mad at something when things are down, because you're out of a job, you've been looking hard, and yet when the preacher comes up on Sunday morning and says it's the gays that are the problem of this country, it's the illegal immigrants, it's the abortionists and all this, when in reality the problem is that we have forsaken Christ because we have allowed greedy people to ruin this nation. We have listened to the wrong people. We have voted the wrong people in. Social Security was supposed to be self-funding. They took funding, and the Democrats are guilty of this too, don't get me wrong. They took money out of Social Security to pay for their excesses. They gave all these corporate tax breaks, and yet we're the people who paid into the Social Security system that now want it. They're the problem now. These people who paid into the system expecting that they would get back that investment that they made when they were working. Now we're told, no, you are a leech on the system. No, you can't have what you paid in. Through no fault of their own, they have been betrayed by the very system they were supporting. We pay into the Medicaid system through our paychecks, and yet when we go to get that, we're told that we can't have it. They're making it harder and harder to get it. It would be very simple to have single-payer health care, and quality would be just as good, if not better, but corporate America couldn't make money off of it. That's why they want private schools now, because they can make money off of it. And the government to fund money right into it. You see, the problem is, yeah, some charter schools are good, but the most of them, they're just as good, if not worse, than the public school system. They want this incessant belief that our teachers are the problem, that public schools are the problem. In the reality, we have starved the public school system to death of funds. We have paid teachers so low that the really good teachers have left, and the ones that have stayed have been neglected. And yet it's their fault. They failed our kids. When in reality, it's the government that's failed our kids. It's our parents that failed our kids. It's the fact that you have companies that want to make money off your children by teaching them what they want, not what they should. The kids should be taught. Critical thinking skills. You're not supposed to have critical thinking skills. You're supposed to do what you're told. Is that American? They're being tested and tested and tested, and they're being so focused and narrow-minded and tunnel-visioned and all this that they're not supposed to see the wider world. Why do you think arts gets cut and music and all this? Because they don't want that. They want you to watch these reality shows and that cater to the lowest common denominator. They want you to worship the Honey Boo Boos and the Duck Dynasties and the Real Housewives of whatever and this stuff. They don't want you to watch a thought-provoking show that may have you question what's really going on in the world. They don't want you to watch House of Cards. They don't want you to watch The Newsroom. They don't want you to watch any of that. Mad Men or anything like that. Real quality shows. The ones that they do want you to watch, the populist, it's stupid. Broadcast networks are serving the lowest common denominator. Instead of lifting us up, they're dumbing us down. And they have been for the longest time. And it's sad, really. I see it all the time. It's sad, but it's true. Ignorance is celebrated in this country. If somebody on the radio tells you that Obama's Satan, who says a few things you agree with and gets you mad enough, and you're already, things are tough, and it's easy. Obama's the biggest scapegoat there is. And yet, who's been in control of Congress the last 2 years? And now will be in control of Congress the next 2. The House of Representatives, Republicans, who will not do anything. They will not, in any way, shape, or form, work with the president at all. Anybody who even thinks about that is sicked upon by these sycophantic, parasitic Tea Party people who don't even realize they're being used by the corporate agenda. Tea Party is not a grassroots campaign. It's funded by the Koch brothers and the Sheldon Aldens and all these other people that basically want you to be dumb so they can make billions of dollars. They want the Walmarts to be where you're the only place to shop is a Walmart, not a mom and pop store. Because they want to not only to get your money, but to control you. If Walmart has way too much power, 40 years ago, they would have tried to break up Walmart. Now we celebrate them. Walmart in many ways is a virtual monopoly in rural America. It used to not be that way. Now it is. But you can drive down to a big city and go to a Target or a Costco. Look at gas prices. The old discount stores that used to have competition with each other, they've been driven away. And the ones that still are around are barely hanging on. And they're selling really substandard stuff because that's all they can do. They have to lower themselves down just to try to compete with Walmart. But we celebrate Walmart when it's like AT&T was back before they got broke up. But we're supposed to celebrate these huge, gigantic companies. Used to be banks were well regulated. Now they're almost without regulation. But yet, who caused the economic downturn in 2008? Unregulated banks. But we're not supposed to blame them. We're supposed to blame the people that got mortgages that knew darn well they couldn't afford them. Unless, of course, you find out that, hey, you can afford a mortgage. Don't let these people tell you can't. You can afford a mortgage. And we'll make it look like that you can, but in reality you can't, nor should you, because you can't afford it, because we've kept you down. You see, here's the whole crux of the story. We're a nation of debtors. And the best way to control somebody is to control their debt. You got a car payment? Well, how much do you really pay for that car after interest? That house you bought, by the time you're done, how much have you really paid for it after interest? And it goes on and on and on and on. They want you to be in debt. They want students, as soon as they graduate, to be in debt because they're easy to control. It's easy to control somebody when you're in debt. You can't get Social Security if you're in debt. You're going to be working for the rest of your life because you dared dream of having a college degree. But since it was so expensive and so you're so saddled down with loans and now that they've made it to where you can't even claim bankruptcy. You're busting your ass trying to work to make a success of yourself, and you're saddled with student loans because they've cut back on Pell Grant. They've cut back on all these others. Why in the world should you have to be saddled with debt when you're trying to strive for success? Do you know what kind of economic boost we would get if the government forgave all student loans? If they did that, we would have a tremendous boost in this country. We'd free up so much capital. People would buy. People would invest. People would do this. Instead, it's really ridiculous when you look at it. But But John, it's the system. It's the capitalistic system. You can't say that. You're a communist if you say that. Really? Really? What I am saying is that this country should be less about me and about we. That doesn't mean we neglect the individual, but we make it to where the individual still matters by making sure those individuals who are right now mattering a whole lot because they have a lot of money and power, they are restrained because they can take advantage of you. You've heard of the phrase life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But they forget to tell you that the pursuit of happiness is supposed to be taken so as long as you're not infringing upon the happiness of others. That your success doesn't degrade others, doesn't impinge on others' success. We're so told that we're supposed to be competitive and all this, and that that may the best person win and such, and that's okay to a certain extent. But when the rules are slanted to where the people that already have the power, already have the money, have the advantage already, fighting that success is a whole hell of a lot harder. And it's hurt this country. That's why we don't have an electric car. That's why we don't have cures for cancer. That's why we don't have this, because they've realized that if they have a cure for cancer, they can't sell you cancer drugs. Jonas Salk didn't patent the polio virus because he saw there was a greater need than his personal financial success. It cost him estimated $7 billion. I don't think he's sweating losing the $7 billion. The man's a saint. But in today's environment, if somebody found a cure for cancer, they would be bombarded by corporations throwing money at them saying, here, pay it, let us buy it. And more than likely they would sell it. Because more than likely that person is having to pay off student loans. More than likely that person has to worry about looking at that going, I can take care of my family. I can free myself out of the student debt. But I was sold my work. Sold my work to somebody who is going to shove it in a corner somewhere so they know they can make sure nobody ever sees it so that they can continue to profit off other people's misery. And that is the problem in this country. Greed. Greed is destroying America. Corporate greed, individual greed. It's destroying us. And you don't even see it because the greedy are using the media on the right wing to tell you God is telling you that greed is good. These prosperity ministries are the Gordon Geckos wrapped in the cloth of Billy Graham. That is the problem. You need to look up, you need to open your eyes, and you need to see that. But you're not doing it because you're being told God says to support Limbaugh, to support Jay Sekulow, to support the D. James Kennedys and all these other people. And to hell with the homeless. To hell with the sick, the poor, and the needy. The needy are the leeches. The needy are shunned of God. You, on the other hand, you keep your guns because you're going to need them to overthrow the government so that corporate America can take over and really show you what a police state's all about. I'm John T. Hill. Good day, good luck, and may the good news be yours, and God bless this country. Or more likely, God save this country from itself.